Welcome to the Impact Effect podcast. I am fired up today because we have Dorothy Vaughn in the studio. And here's the thing. She's a high-level executive when it comes to corporate and business, but more importantly, she's a certified coach under the SLAY program with Rebecca Zung. And we're going to dive into both of those things because there's so much to talk about, whether it's narcissism, whether it's growing in the corporate world, whether it's being a mom of two. We're going to dive into that. So please help me welcome Dorothy Vaughn.
Hi, Jim. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm fired up. This
Me
is going to be a
too.
great episode.
It's going to be great.
So in typical fashion, we always start the Impact Effect podcast by asking our guest, how do you define impact and how do you show up in the world and provide positive impact today?
Yes. Great question. Impact is so important to our society because we all contribute in some way. And I feel that impact is something that comes from your whole entire journey in your life. Ooh. So there's a level of experience and from childhood all the way to where you are today that makes you who you are. And so I think that when you take those experiences, whether they're trials or tribulations or successes, and you turn that into something that creates some kind of wisdom, and you use it in a way where you're vulnerable, I feel like that's what makes an impact, because everybody has a journey and a story to tell. And when you can influence somebody else and share that vulnerability, that's, I think, impact.
And that is why I'm fired up for today's episode. So much alignment in what you just said. Two key things that I want to focus on. The journey of your life, one, I think very important. And then two, really understanding how that journey kind of morphs you into your wisdom and your experience.
Yes.
And then vulnerability, like let's throw that cherry on top, you know? Yeah. Why did you choose that way to define impact?
I think because there's two ways you can go by impact. There's a very creative thinker that comes up with innovative ideas that create some type of impact and trends and things like that. But then there's the side that's more experience focused on how you've learned, where you've come, and where you've arrived in your life. Ooh. And so that's where I went down that path, because I have gone through various different tribulations and trials, and using those experiences to influence others or to help others, I think, is where there's a lot of impact too.
Out of those trials and tribulations, what's the most impactful thing that's kind of pushed you to be vulnerable, yes, to share, to have that ripple effect?
Yes. So trials and tribulations in my life has been relationships with people. So there's what they define as a high conflict individual. And sometimes these people will surface in your life and they will become antagonizer or an enemy or just a difficult person in general that causes destruction to your life. And some people attract them more than others. And some people have personalities that they're drawn to. I feel that I have had that experience. I have had these types of people in friendships, romance, work, everywhere. And it's been a journey to learn how to identify who these people are and how to learn how to handle them or eliminate them from your life. Or if you can't eliminate them from your life, how do you navigate through and use tools and techniques to kind of get there?
Eliminate or navigate.
Yeah.
Let's dive into that.
Let's do it.
So if you can't, let's start with navigate. If
yes.
you can't eliminate,
yes,
how do you navigate that stuff? And then also too, before you jump in, I just want to make one quick point. Relationships are everywhere, mm-hmm. right? Like business, romance, friendship, social clubs, mm-hmm. whatever. And I just think that's really important. So as you dive into navigating this stuff, share with us how you do it or some tactics you've used.
Yeah. So navigating, first you have to identify the red flags so you know who that high conflict individual is. And typically, let's just say the word, I think it's narcissism is sort of like the word that's kind of been trending over the last decade. I think it's overused and misused sometimes. Just if someone's mean doesn't make them a narcissist, but there's a very psychological core to their psyche that makes them the way that they are. And so there's a lack of empathy. There's this ability to want to always cause conflict because they thrive off of feeling powerful in some way. And so they will continuously behave in these patterns where they want to be in conflict with you and they want to cause destruction in some way because it makes them feel good. They lack confidence and security. So they are trying to make them feel like they're somebody. So that core level of lack of empathy is really where you start to see some of those signs on whether someone is narcissistic in nature. There is also a spectrum. So, and I like to talk about the narcissism definitions. I do have a psychology degree, so I have an affinity for psychological mental illnesses and things like that. But there is a spectrum of narcissism. And so I think that's where in society it becomes misused or overused. Oh, they were so mean, oh, they must be a narcissist. Well, no, everybody has a healthy level of narcissism in them. And everybody can be mean or triggered in certain ways, but narcissistic personality disorder is in the DSM, the Psychological Manual for Mental Illnesses. And it is literally a mental illness. And it is somebody that really does not have any empathy at all. And they don't feel the way we feel. They don't act the way we feel. They don't navigate through relationships the way we feel. And they can't help themselves. It is who they are at the core. So identifying these people that have these personality traits and behaviors is like the first key to understanding how do you want to have a relationship with this person? Like, is this a safe person for me? And there's a wonderful book out there called Safe People. And it kind of gives you all the layers of who's a safe person and who isn't. And so that would be like my first advice is to understand who a safe person is, right? And understand how to identify those red flags. And then you can determine whether you want this person in your space or not. And so if you identify them as a red flag, then you can either eliminate them if that's an opportunity for you. There's some people that have to work with individuals that are high conflict and you can't eliminate them. So if you can't eliminate them, you have to learn specific tactics on how to navigate through these relationships with these high conflict individuals. And so some of those things that you can do is you kind of play what they call the gray rock, which is the boring rock in the corner of the room that, doesn't have any level of interest or excitement to them. And you're literally trying to eliminate yourself as being a target. And
Makes sense.
so, that's one tactic that's very, very, very successful at eliminating these people from being a target, from you being a target.
With that gray rock strategy or framework, what does that do to the person though? Like that would still feel terrible to go to that work environment where I'm like
Yes.
forced to be in the corner and like
Yes.
don't give any attention or pay.
Right.
Like, that must feel very constricted of you and your personality. Yeah.
And so one of the things that's so great about some of these tactics and these tools that I'm talking about is how I landed with Rebecca Zung, who is the SLAY High Conflict Negotiation owner or of the program and developer. And she came up with this program called SLAY. And within each of those components, it talks about how you can navigate through with this type of individual. So you have to have a strategy, you have to have leverage, you have to anticipate how they're going to react to you. And then the Y in SLAY is you, which means you have to take care of you. And how can you do that? There's lots of different mental health techniques and different breathing exercises and all kinds of tools that you can use to try to take care of yourself in those situations, which I think is what you're asking about.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it.
It's a part of it, which is so important because people think, oh, I'm going to come up with this strategy and I'm going to win. But then you're not taking care of yourself.
That's such a key. That's so important.
Yeah.
You don't want to come up, it's not a strategy to win or beat the person. It's to better yourself. Because at that point, when you recognize it, when you analyze it, when you tag that person as not safe, narcissistic, high conflict, whatever verbiage or literature we choose today as language, then you're not taking control of that situation. No. So I know I kind of pushed you to the question around the gray rock. Let's dive back into a couple other strategies, if that's okay.
Yes. So some of the others is narcissism have an inflated sense of self, right? So one of the things that they want to be admired, they want to be recognized, they want those accolades, and that's never going to go away. They are who they are. That's who they are. So some of the things that you can use to kind of just feed them a little bit, but just kind of get them to back off is another really great quote that Rebecca Zung comes up with. It's called "Fluff for favor, vomit later."
It's so direct and true.
It really is. It's one of my favorites. And really what the strategy is that to get what you want from the narcissism, just grope their ego and give them what they want, tell them how wonderful they are how good they are at this and whatever. And then you can vomit later because you had to do that. But at least you're getting to that point of getting what you want from that toxic relationship.
It makes so much sense to me when I think about some people in my life and some people in my past, because I've taken some of the elimination route.
Yes.
Probably not, personally the best as far as navigating it probably and eliminating it a lot sooner. But I just think through and I feel like I was always trying to address it as conflict, and just hearing how you're positioning it, it's almost like my ego might have gotten in the way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I want to win and whatnot, but it doesn't need to be like that. It can just be fluff and then step away and hit the trash can on the way out.
Yeah, exactly. It is. It's kind of like the way that you could look at it is you're manipulating the manipulator. Because narcissists are, at the core, they're manipulators. They have no sense of security, no confidence. They lack identity. They're thriving off of this conflict, and it's like a fuel for them, where just like you putting gas in a car. It's something that they have to have in their life, and they're going to get it from anybody, whether it's you or somebody else. So when we talk about eliminate, if you have all the ability in the world to go no contact and eliminate them from your life, do it, because there will be no good that comes out of it. They're just not healthy individuals to have a safe relationship with.
When you talk about the safe relationship and you talk about these narcissistic folks, is it something that someone can change? Can they go from narcissistic to safe?
It's a very, very, very deep, packed question. So at the core of narcissism is that they don't think there's anything wrong with them. They don't have the ability to see how others perceive them.
Wow.
So,
I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
Wow. Can you say that again, please?
They don't have the ability to see how others perceive them. So they don't know that there's really anything wrong with them. And in order to get some type of therapy or techniques to kind of change who you are, you have to come to a place where you are recognizing that you're broken or there's something that you need fixed. And so typically psychiatrists don't have a lot of success with these mental disorders or mental illnesses that they all classify in the same. It's narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial, which is psychopathy and sociopathy, and then there's borderline personality disorder. They're all in this cluster in the DSM, and they are personality traits and mental disabilities that affect relationships with people. So they have no way to regulate their emotions and their psyche. They all lack empathy. They all are comorbid together. And there really isn't a lot of tools that can treat them, and unless they recognize that there's something wrong with them. So cure rate is very low. I think psychiatrists will tell you something around 2 to 3% they're able to treat. And that's with diagnosing them. There's a lot of people that will never get diagnosed. So you really don't know what the percentage of this complex mental illness is in our society because they don't want to be diagnosed.
Yeah. And it makes so much sense because you think through like scenarios or some of these folks, and it's like this manic go, go, go.
Yes.
And it's never this slow down, reflect period of how are my actions affecting others.
Right.
The other thing that came to my mind that I was thinking through as you were talking, understanding of empathy and all that, is like just emotional intelligence in general.
Yes.
Like I wonder where they sit on that scale or that test of EQ, right?
There isn't much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they don't feel and think the same way that safe or healthy people do. When you lack empathy, you don't really have the same feelings that other people have. So that's why when you've got a psychopath that's a serial killer, they don't have that level of anxiety or stress that comes with somebody that would murder somebody and they're not a psychopath. They would like literally go crazy, but they just don't biologically in the brain. They don't have the same components functioning at the levels of someone like you and I. So there is a biological component to this mental illness. And there's a doctor out there. His name is Dr. Amen. He's a psychologist and he scans brain and looks at people that have a healthy brain versus people that have some type of cluster B, like psychopathy, narcissistic, and you can biologically see the differences. Wow. There's areas in the brain that are shrunken or destroyed in some way, and biologically, it could be genetically inherited. It could be unresolved trauma from past. It could be an accident that you had to the brain. So there are some biological components to narcissism on top of just environmental that you learn through your life.
With your experiences, have you seen narcissists in all of those different categories? Like, have you seen it in romance? Have you seen it in friendship? Have you seen it in business?
Yes.
How did you, one, identify it and then kind of navigate it?
Well, when I was going through it, I didn't know what I know now.
Yeah,
so it's really funny when I always tell everybody, get into some type of relationship with a narcissist and you'll walk out with a PhD in psychology.
That makes a lot of sense.
Because what happens is you don't know really what's happening until it's over. And then that's when you start to do your research like, whoa, what just happened? You know, it's like, and then you just realize that you just get that moment where you're like, no more, I'm not going to deal with this anymore. And then you start studying it. But while you're studying it, you might still be attracting this personality style because it's a pattern that you're used to.
Yep.
You haven't figured out the red flags yet. So it keeps coming into your life. But you will get to a pivoting point where you realize, okay, I can spot them out like that. You know, nope, not engaging in that, not interested. Here's my boundary. I'm done. So it is a process to go through to understand how to literally control having these people in your life.
With the spectrum that you were talking about,
Yeah.
Can you just kind of give us maybe some examples? Like, obviously, we understand, full-blown narcissists,
Yes.
brain scans, shrunken brain pieces, right? Like,
Yes,
I
yeah.
totally get that.
Yeah.
But can we talk maybe on this side of the spectrum a little bit?
Yes.
Because there is sometimes that I engage with someone and I feel I'm being mistreated, right? And that's okay, right?
Yeah.
You don't align with everybody or whatnot. And I question it sometimes. I'm like, that was kind of narcissistic. And then I'm also like, is it? And so as I get lower on that spectrum, I tend to get a little confused.
Yeah.
For the listeners in the audience, how can they navigate kind of that spectrum to be like, this is or this isn't, or maybe it's a little bit, or because we kind of get the lot, right? Like it's like, I mean, serial killer. I'm like, this all makes sense, Like it's a deep mental disease, right? And then I think back of like, at Impact Effect, we partner with Jacob's Audible, which helps autistic children. And I'm learning a lot about that and that wide spectrum, right?
Yeah.
Because it can be extremely wide, and I'm learning little pieces. So yeah, I'm really curious to see kind of that other end
Yeah.
of
So
this.
the spectrum is interesting because that's where you label the different types of narcissists. And like I mentioned before, everybody has a healthy level of narcissism in them. So if you just see a comment that could be narcissistic, doesn't necessarily mean they're a narcissist. I think to define a narcissist, it would be a pervasive pattern over a period of time. When you consistently see these behaviors and patterns play out over and over again, then you can say, whoa, okay, I've had about 5 experiences with this person. They are very narcissistic. And I think at that point, you can figure out that they would fall into that category. But going back to the spectrum, there's different types of narcissists. And you have your grandiose narcissists, which would typically be your politicians, your CEOs, the ones that are in the limelight, that want the glory. They're high powered in powerful positions. They are very openly egotistical. That's the grandiose narcissist. And I think most of society thinks that's all a narcissist is. It's just someone that has an inflated sense of ego.
Yeah, totally. I can
But
definitely see
that's
that.
just one type of narcissist. Then there's the covert narcissist, which actually is a little bit more concerning than a grandiose, because grandiose you can kind of spot out pretty easily because they want to be in your face and show you how wonderful they are. It's their ego, right? But they're still doing underhandedly bad things to you, but they're just more out in the open. The covert narcissist is someone that's kind of like a snake in the grass. I mean, they're slithering around and they're hiding who they are. They have a mask on. It's an identity they want you to see. But then when they're ready for that mask to come down, it is destructive and very confusing. And so most people will end up getting fooled by the covert narcissist, and they will get into these friendships and relationships and business partnerships and not even know what's coming, and then all of a sudden it hits you out of the middle of nowhere. And so the covert is, I think, is pretty dangerous because it just comes from nowhere. Then there's the malignant narcissist, which I think is like the next stop on the train to psychopathy. They are very sadistic. They love to hurt. They love to retaliate. They can be dangerous if they don't get their way with you. So they have all of the narcissistic traits. They just take it to a whole nother level of destruction. And that would be a malignant narcissist. And I've known all of them.
Wow.
And I've had each of them in my life, yes.
Wow. How did you figure out the covert?
The covert is very hard to figure
Yeah,
out.
it sounds it. And I have some people in my life, and I totally missed that and found that out 2-3 years later. Like it was
Yes.
an after fact for me, I feel like, with some of those types of folks.
Yes. The covert is interesting because what happens is they come on very strong very quickly because they're trying to like kind of hoover you in, which is the term that some psychologists use in narcissistic cycles is hoover. It comes from the vacuum, They suck you in really quick and really fast. And they find something about you that they want to use, or something they want to exploit, or something about you, that your identity that they want for themselves. And so they will come in really fat. They'll study you. They'll know that you're the right person, you're the target, or you could be a good victim. And they just pull you in with all of these elements that, make you interested. Like they'll talk your language. They'll talk about things that you're interested in and are passionate about, or they find all of those points in your life that mean something to you. And they pull you in really fast and quick. And then all of a sudden the mask is taken down and you realize really what's behind the mask. It's a very destructive person that is only using you for supply.
Wow.
And so you just have to know that healthy relationships, and that's why I love that Safe People book, is that healthy relationships will teach you, safe relationships, how a relationship is supposed to start. Like it's not supposed to be like in 3 months, you're like inseparable, or you're engaged, or you're married, or it's a healthy growing together. Even in partnerships, business partnerships, it's not like, let's do it right now and I want all this money and we're going for it. It's, you got to build levels of trust, and then loyalty comes after trust. And you don't trust someone until it's earned. It's not handed out.
Let that one sink for a second.
Yeah.
Like, wow. I mean, how many times in my life, just thinking through, have I just given it, right?
Yes.
And it's been on a minor engagement, and then I regret it later.
Yeah.
Right? And that could have been in romance relationships. I mean, more so in a lot of friendships.
Yes.
I think that's where it shows up for me a lot.
Yeah.
I think in the business world, and I don't recognize everybody exactly who they are at first, right? I've made mistakes, but I think in the business world, I'll eliminate extremely quickly.
Yeah.
Whereas the friendship, I think, is more of that covert, where it pulls me into all of these, like, well, I want to help with this, or I want to do this. And it's like, whoa, I'm being treated horrible.
Yeah.
I need to eliminate. Yeah. So yeah, I think in my life, just as I think through some of this, and thank you for just this great explanation and the spectrum, because I know our listeners are going to be blown away, but this has been very helpful for me as I think back of some of these people in my life.
Yes.
You said you've experienced all of them. What's that? It was malignant, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Malignant narcissist is someone who's very dangerous, that will go to great lengths to try to destroy every aspect of your life. It could be your finances. It could be your job. It could be your relationships with your family, your friends, your image, or your in the community. Like, they are on a mission to take you down and bury you.
That happened with romance for me.
Yeah. I think everybody can say, at some point they've gotten to some type of level with that. Yeah. And so, but they can be dangerous. I mean, they can be physically violent. They could be very sadistic in a way of setting you up, framing you. They can be very dangerous individuals.
It's almost like, for me, as I think back, there was no like control or anything that I could do or say. Mm-hmm. It was almost like this tailwind that was just kept on coming, and it was just spinning out of control and just catastrophic almost.
Yeah.
Like, as you're saying this, I'm like, this person tried to get me to lose my job. They made fake claims about, I'm thinking through all these things. Wow.
That would be
even to the point of trying to hurt my pet.
Yes. That would be a malignant narcissist. And some women that are in domestic abuse relationships, most of them are malignant narcissists, because they can be very violent, abusive physically, mentally, psychologically, verbally, but they are the ones that will literally stalk you and, put GPS trackers on your car and follow you to places and, just do everything they can to intimidate you or to make you scared. So those, I would say most women that are in domestic violence relationships are usually in with a malignant narcissist.
Wow. Tell me just about your journey with all this information. Like, you're very equipped with a ton of knowledge. You work with Rebecca Zung. Yeah. You've got the degree in psychology. Yeah. Is this something that you've experienced and you are like, I need to dive into this deeper? Is this something you've always known about? Like, tell me your kind of journey with this.
So I haven't always known about it, because when I was studying in psychology, I think this whole cluster B and the psychological manual wasn't really clearly defined. It was either you're a psychopath or you're bipolar, so there wasn't, a lot of this stuff is new as it's become pervasive. And I think it really is kind of a pandemic now, because it's starting to really grow, these mental disorders. But the way that I started understanding it, of course, was with relationships. And then when I realized that I had been targeted by so many people that were narcissists, I felt it was important to kind of understand it a little more, study it, and then I started developing a passion for it, which is kind of where we go back to this impact. It's like, if you can use your wisdom in a vulnerable way to make some type of impact, then it's what you're made to do. I think that we all have a purpose, right, in life. And so what I started doing was I got the certification from Rebecca Zung. Yay, props to her. Love her. She's wonderful.
She really is
She's
wonderful. If you
absolutely.
haven't experienced any of her content,
Yeah.
please do. I got to share a panel with her in Beverly Hills, and
Yeah.
we had a little bit of banter back and forth. It was really fun. She's very, very, very intelligent woman.
Smart
Yes.
as a whip.
Yeah.
And I found her because I was in some litigation with a narcissist. So she is an attorney, consulted with her. And then when I found out she had this program, I was like, wow, this is pretty interesting. And because of what I went through in my workplace at Nissan, which is my other job, I've been with Nissan, believe it or not, in July, it'll be 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats. That's
yes,
huge.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that.
Thank
Awesome.
you. And so because I had that skill set, I was able to apply it actually in the workplace. What I'm able to do at work is I have an open door policy, like basically letting, people know that I have training in high conflict negotiation. I mean, every workplace needs that, because even if it's just not narcissism that you're navigating, there's always conflict.
Nice.
So, but there are specific individuals in the corporation that I've been able to identify as narcissists, and the perpetual patterns of conflict that these people have with them. So I've kind of had an open door policy where people will come to me and we'll talk about what's happening and what they're doing to them, and how can you respond, not react, which is really important when you're dealing with a narcissist. If you react, you're giving them the supply they want. They want to provoke you to be upset. So you have to respond. Responding is different than reacting. So I'm teaching some people in the workplace on how to respond with some of these tools that I've learned on how to navigate with the narcissist. So that's how I'm using it in the corporate world, which is really cool. And then in personal life, it's really just through your network, like people you've met along the way. I've met a lot of people in Rebecca's training. There's one woman that I help coach. There's people in the community there's couples going through divorces or friendships that are having conflicts. And so I've helped navigate giving these tools to my friends and some of the people in the community on how to deal with narcissism and high conflict individuals. So it's just really rewarding. It's just really rewarding that you can use your own experience and what you've learned to help others.
It's impact.
It's impact, yeah.
Thanks for being here today. I really appreciate the conversation.
Thanks, Jim. It was awesome being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.